another episode of Sports and Songs podcast. We're on season 4, episode number 39 tonight. It's the Songs edition. Andy, we've never done a Queensryche album on the 4 years we've been doing this.
No.
Special guests on tonight for the show to go through Operation Mindcrime.
Yes.
Mindcrime, the 1988 album, concept album, if you will. We're going to do the album review for our music episode tonight, our Songs edition, if you will. And what we've got with us is Queens of the Ryche, members of the tribute band with us. Tom, I'm gonna ship it over to you, Tom, and do some introductions as we're gonna get the interview with the 3 folks from the band. There's 5 in the band, but we're gonna get their thoughts on this album and also talk about 6 in the band.
Yep.
And we'll get their thoughts on the songs as we go, and talk about their tribute band. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay. My name's Tom Moga. I'm the bass player. And then we have Beth Brennan, who is our vocalist. And then we have Mark Ganji, who is the one of the lead guitar players. Johnny Ramirez is the drummer. And then Aaron Schmidt is our other guitar player. And Dale Schultz is our keyboard vocalist.
Awesome. And now, how long have you guys been around as a group? You're fairly new, right?
Yes, we are.
So my first question is, how many Queensryche tribute bands are out there? You know, number 1 in the Twin Cities area, and number 2 nationwide. I have not seen anyone out there. Is this a newer gig?
I can answer that.
Yeah.
It is a newer. It is a newer gig. There is another band out there called Queen of the Ryche, just like we are Queen of the Ryche, except they are Queens of the Ryche, plural, and there's like 2 female singers, but they're not in Minnesota, and I'm not even sure if they're still together anymore. And then there was one other one, but we may perchance be the only live one out there right now. Definitely in the Twin Cities area, but potentially countrywide as well. And I will tell you, my research extends as far as Instagram and Facebook and YouTube.
I do think there's another 1 or 2 floating around, but it's definitely a rarity.
That is awesome. Awesome. Andy had brought it up to me to say, let's get these guys on the show and do an album. And I thought my first question was, I don't think there's any tribute bands out there that do Queensryche, and the question then is, why not? So this is awesome. We're happy to have you on the show. And so what we'll do is we'll go through the album review first of Operation Mindcrime, and I'd like to get your thoughts on the playlist as we go through the songs of each one of you 3 that are on here the show tonight. What your thoughts are about that. Let me bring up the album cover here. Very good one. It's considered by many to be a masterpiece. I mean, seriously, huge. Here, let's see.
But you can keep our logo up there. That's totally cool.
Oh yeah, it's a great logo. It is a great logo, by the way. I want to get into more of that later too, as far as the design and everything. It's pretty awesum. But here we go.
Kudos to hand out for that. Okay.
Oh yes, it is very slick. So Operation Mindcrime is the 3rd studio album by American heavy metal band Queensryche, originally released May of 1988. So this album is a concept album with a rock opera and a rock opera. The story follows Nicky, a drug addict who becomes disillusioned with the corrupt society of his time and reluctantly becomes involved with the revolutionary group as an assassin of political leaders. And this was Queensryche's breakthrough album, reaching number 50 on the Billboard 200, while its singles Eyes of a Stranger and I Don't Believe in Love served as the band's first charting hits in the U.S. This album went on to be certified platinum. It came out 1988, recorded in studios in Pennsylvania and Quebec, Canada. Now, it's interesting. The idea for the album, of course, came from Jeff Tate after he moved to Montreal, Canada, and was listening to loose talk of the members of a militant Quebec separatist movement who had grown friendly with him. And lot of interesting things here. Now, this reminds me, this album is really more of a Brave New World, kind of a Orwell 1984, which seems really old and kind of out there, but we seem to be kind of living it. In today's society, it's so bizarre how close and how much these guys were prophets, if you will, prophesying about things that are coming down the road. And here we are, 2023, and I was on YouTube today just reading the comments about how many current comments are out on these songs of people saying very, very close to what we're actually living with, playing out in real time. But this is really called a masterpiece. It's the magnum opus. LA Weekly ranked this on the top 20 hair metal albums of all time at number 14. And Classic Rock named it among the 10 essential progressive metal albums. And so I know each of these songs here has meaning and a story behind it, and I'd like to get your thoughts. Andy, feel free to chime in as well, but let's go through the track listing. Song 1, and this goes in order as well for the story. Song 1 is I Remember Now. Any thoughts on that? It's only a minute, 17 seconds, but who wants to go first? Beth, do you want to cover that one?
Well, that's really easy because there's not much there. It's, it's more of the talking about he's in a dream fugue, and it's sort of like the end of the story and then going back to the beginning. So it's not really a song, but if we ever cover the album cover to cover, we'll probably have to have that in there, even though there's not a lot of quote unquote music to it. But it sort of sets the stage as he's waking up in probably the puzzle house and saying that he remembers the entire all of the happenings of the rest of the album, and then he goes back and plays it, basically his memories from beginning to ending.
And they have of course played this album front to back. That's very, very common with the concept albums like this, and that would be my first question. Have the three of you, any of you three, seen this live, the front to back in concert?
Yeah, I saw it back in the 90s on it was the Empire tour, and they played the entire Mindcrime album, start to finish, and then segued into probably another good 45 to 60 minutes of Empire and various other albums, and it was just absolutely an amazing show all the way through.
Yeah, and we'll get into this later, but if you get the deluxe box set and the live CD and the album at the Hammersmith Odeon, November 1990 is where that was played also in its entirety. This complete album in order. Let's go on to the next song, an instrumental. It's Anarchy X. Aaron, anything on that one?
Yeah, it's a great entry into the album. It's got a lot of a nice sort of a march kind of a feel to it. Just gives a lot of energy. Has the first of many guitar harmonies that are sprinkled throughout, and they always do really interesting things with their harmonies, and this is a great example of that.
Anything else, Tom, on that from a music perspective?
No, I think that's the way I would have thought.
Okay.
Too. It's got a lot of different elements and everything, and as me as a bass player, I like different elements and how it grooves, and how the song kind of takes off, and those are kind of things that really make me like a band. Songs.
Now, the next song is the first song. It's actually track number 3 is Revolution Calling. What's your thoughts on this one here? We'll go with Aaron to start off with.
It's one of my favorites, although I will probably say that about many of these. Yeah. A favorite, but I love this song. Has one of my favorite solos on the album. It's actually one of the trickier solos to play, but a lot of fun. Also, really a lot of really interesting things happening rhythmically underneath the solo too, which is part of what gives them a lot of their unique sounds, rather than just sort of everything laying back behind the solo. They're doing lots of really interesting things, some odd time signatures and syncopation you've thrown in just to kind of keep things really interesting throughout.
Yeah, and one thing, Andy, you may want to chime in here
Yeah.
too as well. But this is not everyday rock metal music. This is very, it mentions here, very intelligent, artistically demanding music. This is tough to pull off.
Well, that's about this song too. I thought it goes right in their first song. They're just head first in the deep end, like you said. Lots of different sounds. The music, not your basic '80s hairband rock and roll song. So they really throw it all out there right off the bat, kind of grabs your attention like, okay, I got to see where the rest of this is going.
Even with Beth, with the vocals as well and the music, this album is very, this isn't for the faint of heart, if you will.
No,
it's not for the entry-level tribute band.
No, it's not. And you mentioned words metal and prog at the same time. And I think those are two elements as to why it's complicated, why you have to look high and low to find other Queensryche tribute bands out there to try and replicate this. We can get into that a little bit later about how this collection of individuals came together. But I will admit, when I first listened to the album as, I'm going to listen to this as an album I'm going to perform, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. Just because, and I think because the timing is different. It's not verse chorus bridge, chorus till fade out. There are different elements in here, and they are telling a story, much like any rock opera, like Tommy or any of that. And they aren't messing around. I mean, they went for it like 2112 went for it. It's intense. And you're not going to see a lot of prog charting either. In '88, prog metal and it was prog and pop and it was all of that.
What I remember most is the fans that I knew in school. I graduated in '88, so there were hardcore Queensryche fans, and even reading through the comments on YouTube today of various the videos and the songs, they're all that same age. The people that locked in. There's not a lot of soft fans. The ones that are hardcore are all the way from back then to now. I mean, this is what I find very, very interesting. I myself was not a fan. I was listening to other things at the time, but as going through the story here and the topics and the lyrics, I certainly would find myself a fan now because I'm following these things in social, in society, these things we're dealing with right now myself. Mm-hmm. Next song is Operation Mindcrime, and this gets into a little. I wouldn't say. Well, I would say. We were talking MK Ultra kind of things. We're talking this hypnosis kinds of things, reminiscent of Sirhan, RFK murder, this kinds of things, but in a fictional setting. What are your thoughts on this song?
Who wants to go? I mean, I can start. Dr. X, the man with the cure. Dr. X keeps Nikki in sort of a drug-induced cloud haze, so that he can fulfill the taking out of the operatives or taking out of the political figures. So he's already dependent, and this is the doctor that's going to keep him sort of underhand. To carry out the operation. So many, it's very dystopian, but it gets into, hey, this is the main story now. We're talking about a revolution before, now we're moving into how we're going to carry out that revolution, so to speak. So, and how his character sort of gets pulled into the story. I don't know, Tom or Aaron, if you want to add to that.
Yes, please, go ahead. Go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. As far as like with the music, this is the song that really the drums and the bass on it. It's got a really, really interesting groove, and it's something that you have to be be tight. It's got this feel to it that makes want to listen to the story but the music is also telling the story along with it. It's very interesting.
Yeah, interesting. How about yourself, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm going to say it again and again. One of my favorites. But yeah, just a lot of musically really interesting things happening through it. You get both DeGarmo and Wilton involved in the lead section, so that's something I always really enjoy. One of the things I love about the band themselves, Queensryche, and this band here, having two really strong, capable dual lead guitarists. That's always been the model that I've found most appealing, and it's really fun and exciting to play that kind of music and play that with the group that we've got together here.
Yeah, and he's talking in the personnel for the band. It's Michael Wilton and Chris DeGarmo, both lead guitarists in the band. Really make for a great sound. The next song is "Speak." What's your thoughts on this one? Feel free. It doesn't matter who wants to speak.
Speak to speak.
The timing on this one is crazy. The timing on this is kind of crazy. This is one that we haven't. We'll talk about what we're tackling currently, and I think eventually we are going to do a cover to cover of this one. For this, I think from a timing standpoint is the most intricate and interesting. Now that's just as a vocalist, maybe Tom and Aaron and the rest of the crew are like, oh no, this is a breeze. But I know Mark Ganji's like, yeah, this one is kind of weird timing wise. And again, it's got the elements of, we're trying to assimilate into pop metal, but at the same time we're telling you that we're into prog and so the timing is just really wild. I found with this album, as with a lot of the Queensryche album, vocally there's tons of layering. Just like there's layering of guitars, there's vocal layering where he's doing call and response to himself. I know that in live performances that I've actually been studying is DeGarmo is doing a lot of actually the harmonies, where in live they're either using tracks or or in the recording, of course Tate is mimicking himself or recording over himself. But I've seen in some live where DeGarmo was doing not only lead guitar but some vocals as well. And so with weird timing and harmonizing guitars and layered vocals, this is one of those that spoke to me as like, wow, this one's crazy hard. But I can't wait to tackle this one personally.
Fun. How about you, Tom?
Oh boy.
Speak.
I would, yeah. I'm gonna agree with Beth on that. That there is a lot of layering. There is a lot of different, elements in the song, and it is probably one of the harder ones vocally that I can hear. We haven't tackled that one, so I haven't really gone through it too much right now musically, but I'm sure it like any Queensryche song, it's going to be fun to play.
How about you, Aaron?
Yeah, it's one that I haven't dove into yet. I haven't learned that one myself, but it's with a lot of their songs, in some ways, just as having listened to it many times, it seems one of their more straightforward songs. But with a lot of their music, once you really get into trying to learn it and perfect it, you find lots of little nuances and wrinkles that perhaps you didn't really appreciate before, that give it some of their unique sound. And so really nailing those details can be one of the more time-consuming elements of all this, even in some of their otherwise relatively straightforward songs.
Now, the next song is "Spreading the Disease." What's your thoughts on that one, Aaron?
So yeah, this is one that we have tackled ourselves, and we'll have it in our sets soon. And actually, I guess we have done that at some of the open mics. It's a really cool song. A little bit more up tempo in parts, but also some cool dynamics. The breakdown has a real interesting feel. rhythmically with percussion, additional percussion beyond just the standard drum kit that really add a lot of layers to the song.
How about Tom?
It's one of my favorites to play because there are some really cool, intricate bass lines in that song that are pretty fast, and it's really enjoyable to play. So it's definitely one of my favorites.
It's fun, and for Queensryche, it's Eddie Jackson on bass, and so another very talented individual for that one. How about you, Beth, for that song, "Spreading the Disease"?
I love that one because I think it's vocally really chunky because I can go very, very low and then I can go very, very high. And so we're tackling too with Dale, our backing vocals, doing some fun things, with that. And I think the story is really within the song is really visceral about how Mary introduces herself into the equation. So for those who don't know, in this story, she's kind of like a street worker, basically, who becomes taken in by the church and is part of the revolution. So they call her Sister Mary. I'm doubting that she's actually a nun, but but it's about how she got involved, and there's this really kind of gritty. And that's, I think, why the rhythm's really hot. It's gritty and dirty. And then in the middle, there's this sort of, I'll call it a prog rap breakdown, where Dale and I are, religion and sex are power plays. And it is and kind of an 80s rap. So they've got this weird, as Tom was talking about, the intricate bass lines, and it's up tempo, as Aaron was speaking to. But then there's this really cool percussive breakdown that's almost like bongos but more electronic, and then there's this whispered sort of chant slash rap in the middle. So it's got everything you could possibly want in this, and it's like in your face and really up tempo. So I love this one. If there was a Queensryche dancer song, this might be it in this album.
Yeah,
the closest that they get.
And she mentions the percussion on the album. It's Scott Rockenfield is the drums and percussion and keyboard, actually, at the very end. So that's that song. Then we get into The Mission. Beth, do you want to start us off on that one? The Mission.
Yeah, we are working on that one right now. That's one of the ones that we've got on our short list for work list. And the person who first suggested it was Aaron, because it's one of Aaron's favorite songs. But it's mournful, and it's got a lot of pad keys in it, so it kind of has this nice layer of sound, sort of continual through it. And it's about Nicky, the main character's sort of struggle to fulfill his duties in the mission, and they're telling him that this is going to save the world, and he kind of knows it's wrong. And of course there's lots of beautiful guitar work in there. And so I'm going to toss it to Aaron because this one's close to his heart.
Yeah, for I don't know, what are we on, song 7? Probably the 7th time I said one of my favorites. But yeah, this is one that I've really liked for a long time. I've played, I've never really learned it start to finish before, but it's one of those, the main riffs I've kind of played forever. And so, yeah, it's definitely one that I pushed for us to add to our repertoire. It's a very dynamic song. It starts off, very, with a very ballad feel, clean guitars, then gets, very heavy hitting. The solos, also very dynamic. It's very melodic, but then it gets, has some really articulate, faster runs towards the end, give it a more frantic feel to close things off. So that's, like I said, to me, it's one of the dynamics of the song is one of the things that really resonates with me.
Anything else, Tom?
No.
And now the next song is the longest song on the track. It's Sweet Sister Mary, 10 minutes, 41 seconds on the album. Do you guys, I'm assuming you don't cover that, but I don't know. Maybe you do.
Yeah.
Yet.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, at some point, and actually, well, we started off initially. Our initial intention with all of this was to do the entire album start to finish, and then we decided, well, let's be a little less ambitious to get things going. But eventually, we do intend to, to play this entire album start to finish, and most certainly, including Sweet Sister Mary. It's just such an amazing song. It's another one that's just even more dynamic than the Mission. It just has so many ebbs and flows, so many changes of mood. It has a lot of production to it. There's probably more layers to this than anything else. So pulling this one off live will definitely be challenging, but it's something that I'm looking forward to.
Now on tour, they brought in guest singer Pamela Moore as
Yes.
Sister Mary. You were there, Aaron. What was that? How did she do?
She did great. It was, that was really one of the highlights of the show, to be able to see them pull that song off again with all the extra bits and pieces that it has going, to be able to pull that off live as well as it is on the album. It was really incredibly impressive.
I would
Excellent.
hazard a guess, and we haven't discussed this at all. So we haven't discussed this. But that once we get to that, we would pull in a guest singer as well. And I think the three of us have our eyes on who that might be for that
Oh,
song.
interesting. Okay.
Because he helped us out before in February. So it might be an interesting nod to him helping us out with the first three songs we ever performed in a very big hurry, but he would have the chops to take some lead. And I don't think you can perform this album without performing that song. For some people, this is their coup de grace. This is the thing. So to say, we're not going to do this, we're not doing it out of the gate because we need our catalog. We need to firm up a catalog. But then when we have that firmed, we can go back and add these things and do it. I know it's been Tom's dream to do this front to back. So we would want to, I think we would want to pull that individual in. His name rhymes with Jake. That, would maybe help us out on that song. And I think he'd do great. But
well, it being the middle song in the album too, you kind of have to have that meat and potatoes in there. You can't do the album but skip that song. That you can't do that.
No, people would be mad.
Yeah, I mean, you can maybe miss one of the instrumentals, that'd be okay, but you miss that song, a 10-minute song, that's going to be noticeable,
And Tom, what's your thoughts
Tom,
on
do you have any thoughts on it?
Oh, yeah. Last song on track one, side one.
It's it's definitely going to be a very challenging song, but it's just like everything on Mindcrime, to me, it's that whole story taken from the beginning to end, and it keeps building up each song, and it really brings out how that album was produced and written, and it's definitely everything has to be in there.
Yep. Excellent. Side two begins with the song "The Needle Lies," a reference here to the heroin addiction by Nikki. Who wants to cover that song? "The Needle Lies." Any good commentary?
The most up-tempo song on the album. This is one that we haven't gotten to yet either, but it has just such a driving, fast-paced pulse to it. Just very high energy song. So that'll be a really fun one to play.
Less prog, more metal.
Exactly.
I mean, if I were to say what that is, it's just
almost
it's in your
punk.
face metal. It's almost punk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the Sister Mary dies here. The next song is "Electric Requiem," and this is tying back into now her departure. And who wants to cover that song from a music or even a lyrical perspective?
The boys can cover it because there's really not much on the except Mary.
Yeah.
Mary,
Yeah.
are you dead?
It's kind of an instrumental, not really.
Yeah.
It's a 1 minute 22 seconds. Written by Scott Rockenfield. Now the next song is "Breaking the Silence." Now this is a good one. What do you have for this one?
this is probably one of their more, even though this wasn't probably their biggest hit, but this is probably the most radio friendly in some ways, the most poppy sounding of the songs on the album, but still with plenty of interesting wrinkles. The solo section is really cool on this. There's a lot of back and forth between the two guitars. So if one guitar will take the lead for a few bars, then it's over to the other, back again, and so forth, and that gives it a really cool feel.
Excellent.
I'd say for a Queensryche novice, of which of these gentlemen I would be, out of the three of us, I would be the least experienced in Queensryche. Once I listened to the album, I found it, when we were choosing our first things to tackle, this was one of them, because I have some pop sensibilities. And so this kind of followed a more formulaic path that I could glom onto easily with before I went heads first into the prog stuff. This was much more, as Aaron was saying, radio friendly, in that it had just a pretty structured, a well-structured song path that I was used to hearing on the radio.
Makes sense. Now, speaking of the radio, the next song, "I Don't Believe in Love," was their second single from the album. "I Don't Believe in Love." What are your thoughts on this one, Aaron? What are your thoughts here?
It's another classic. I'm not quite sure what to say about it specifically. It's just again, a lot of really interesting guitar work to it. Nice mix of clean and distorted guitars. Again, very sort of quintessential Queensryche solo section with the harmonies at the tail end. So in some ways, it's, if you were going to give somebody one song to introduce them to Queensryche, this would probably be the one that has sort of most of the hallmark elements of their sound.
This was nominated for Grammy 1990 for Best Metal Performance, and so that would make sense. That would be your introductory song if you're introducing someone to the band. The next song is "Waiting for 22." That's an instrumental. It's 1 minute 5 seconds long. "Waiting for 22." Then "My Empty Room," another short song, 1 minute 25. "My Empty Room," and it wraps up with "Eyes of a Stranger," the very first single that was released. And so if we want to go through and cover those last three, how would you put those together as far as the meaning, songs, music, and the style?
Musically, I love the way that they just flow one into the next. It just really gives a lot of cohesiveness to the story that's unfolding, and sort of an increasing urgency to the whole story, and very moody pieces. So those are ones that we haven't played as a band, but I've played on my own and really enjoy. So. The instrumental pieces, those will be really cool. And then, leading into "Eyes of a Stranger" is, another one of the just sort of the monster, I guess, as much as Queensryche's had a monster hit, other than "Silent Lucidity." This, is one of their biggest, and, for good reason. It's really amazing song that also has a lot of interesting wrinkles and changes of feel and time, a lot of just interesting dynamic elements to it.
And Tom, this the story, it's very complex. With the well-developed storyline is just very, very interesting. What are your thoughts there on these last three songs and how it all ties it all together?
Well, like I was saying before, it kind of, the whole story from the beginning to the end, it's, it kind of builds up until, the instrumentals, and everything. It kind of gives you that feeling of that, what they're kind of, without even having words on some, what's going to happen. there's like a feeling there, and then when you get into, Eyes of a Stranger, it's that big ending song that really takes the whole album to what's about.
Now in 2003,
It's
the
Nicky's
reissue.
descent into madness. It's
Yes.
a slow descent into madness until he doesn't even recognize himself. By Eyes of a Stranger, he doesn't even know himself at the end. I think that's the feverish pitch that we're getting to, is his descent into madness.
Yeah, how do you guys like
Well said.
on the bonus, My Empty Room, the live performance at the Astoria Theatre in London was track number 17 on the reissue. How did you guys like that live performance?
I don't know if I've heard that, to be honest.
Andy, have you on that bonus?
It's on the CD re-release in 2003.
Oh,
okay, gotcha.
They added that and also the Mission, a live version of that one, which is really weird because a lot of these bands and albums, when we do it, usually the Japanese release has 2 extra songs on there. The European release has 2 extra songs, and they'll do something like this. I also want to backtrack to Eyes of a Stranger. The thing about that song is, we talked about how they're all types of music. They're hair band, they're prog, they're everything else. Eyes of a Stranger was not really a power ballad, not really a regular rock song. It was it was a little of everything in there too, which summed up the whole album perfectly. It was a little of everything, and it was a great song to be your first one out to get your attention for this album. Hey, I like the sound of this band. This is cool. I want to get this album. That song, you want to listen through it to get to it. So really, marketing-wise, great first release, to set up the whole story by releasing the finish first.
Yeah, that's a 6-minute, 39-second song. The last song on the album was their first single release. Very interesting.
Yeah, kind of bold to release a 7-minute song as the first single, but it works.
Yeah.
And we talked about the genre, but here it's listed officially. It's heavy metal, progressive metal. Length is 59 minutes, 14 seconds. Producer Peter Collins. What's your thoughts on Peter Collins' work on this album here?
I'm not familiar with Peter Collins specifically, but the album sounds great. It's as we mentioned a number of times, there's a lot of elements to it, a lot of layers, a lot of harmonies vocally and guitars and synths, and so much going on. And for everything to be able to be cohesive and to be able to hear the individual elements as well as you can, I think is, it must have been a major challenge, and they clearly did a great job with it.
Yeah, because Peter Collins, he's worked with guys. He's worked with Ryche, Billy Squire.
That makes sense.
Cooper. I'm sorry. Yeah. Janis Joplin, Tracy Ullman, Brian Setzer, Suicidal Tendencies. So he's worked with a whole bunch of different bands too. So he's not one of those does only hard rock guys. Some producers are that way, but he's a very good producer. He's done a lot with everybody. So I think his knowledge from these other groups in here really helped that a lot too.
Not surprising that he worked with Ryche.
Yeah,
that's not surprising.
Yeah, it's a great sounding album. Just aesthetically, just the guitar tones, everything about it, I think is really holds up very well. It doesn't sound like an album that's, at least to me, it doesn't. Maybe it's because I've been listening to it for so many years, but it still to this day doesn't sound like an album as old as it is.
I read
this album too, I think it couldn't be released today in today's format with Spotify and everything else where you could just release singles. You really can't do a concept album like this, I don't think, today. It'd be real hard to do.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Oh, yeah, I think that the entire album was excellently, recorded and mastered. I mean, mastering was really good, in my opinion. All the elements, everything you can hear very clearly. Nothing got buried too much in the mix. I think so. It was a very well produced album.
Yeah, I think in today's world, it's cited as influential by Avenged Sevenfold. Even really love this this album. That's all that I've got for the album. Andy, is there any more? Because I'm looking forward to getting into some details about the tribute band here. Andy,
No, I've got some questions for the band themselves.
Perfect.
Nice segue into that.
First
of all,
ahead. I'm gonna
thanks for being on. Appreciate that.
Some photos here.
Now you guys got coming up here next week or so. You're playing up in Duluth at Trib Fest. Did you go up last year and watch it, or have you seen these big tribute festival ones before?
I was there last year,
Okay.
just as a spectator. So I kind of know it. And I think, Aaron, you've played it before. I don't know.
I was supposed to play it a couple of years ago with an Iron Maiden tribute that I'm in. Unfortunately, lightning blew out the soundboard on the tribute stage shortly before we were set to get up there. So we were there, didn't actually get to play, unfortunately. But I have been there enough to be able to check it out and be really excited about the opportunity to play there, coming up here real soon.
A lot of networking.
Yeah, I played
with other bands.
Oh, go ahead, Tom.
I played there about 3 years ago with a Joan Jett tribute, Cherry Bomb, on the main stage. So, yeah, that was my.
You guys do a lot of networking with other bands up there to kind of work with them when you get back to the cities, or do other stuff with?
Well, the funny part is that all of us that are already networked down here are going up there. So when we get there, like 90% of the bands, we all know everybody already. So
Duluth, it's Twin Cities going up north,
Yeah, we do. We know probably. I looked at the lineup both stages. We probably know at least 80% of the people playing there. So it'll be fun.
Kind of like a class reunion in a way. Now, wait, okay.
Exactly.
Queensryche. I'll tell you, like I said before, when we said we're doing this album, I heard it again for the first time. I heard it when it first came out. Then I went and did the whole college thing, and we won't get into that. Hit those dark years where I got into country music and stuff. So I came back to this now, listening again. But why did you pick Queensryche to be a band to cover? Because like we said, there's not many of them. Was that one reason why, or was just true love of the band, that you all had this shared love for the band?
Deferring to Tom.
Oh, Tom's fault.
Well, I was me and Johnny Ramirez, our drummer, me and him are also in Linkin Park tribute, and we were kind of thinking about another one that'd be really great. We kind of pondered a whole bunch of different bands, and we both came up with Queensryche, and then Beth actually was performing some Queensryche stuff at the open jam that we do, and just her vocals was just like, oh yeah, this is exactly what we should do. And Johnny agreed, and then asked Mark and Aaron if they were interested. They said yes, and then Beth asked Dale if he wanted to do it, and that's the band. And it's it's a great bunch of musicians. Everyone is incredibly talented in this group.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I've loved this album from pretty much the very beginning. Just from when I first started playing, this was one of my favorite albums, and so I had heard that there some discussions of a Queensryche tribute being put together, and so I immediately made it known that this was something I'd be extremely interested in doing. And it's just it's so much fun to play. It is challenging, and that's part of what makes it fun. Also, part of what makes it unique. It is, as was mentioned before, it's not something that that just any old tribute can pull off. So it's it's really kind of a special opportunity to be able to play this kind of music and do it well.
Go ahead, Beth.
Well, I was going to say, if somebody says, oh, what bands are you in? We talk about our bands. We're in multiple bands. Yeah. And I say, I'm in a Queensryche tribute. People stop what they're doing. They just go, whoa. Mm-hmm. Is usually what comes out of their mouths, because if they're a musician of any note, they know this is really hard stuff and challenging work, which I think is why we're all interested in it, because it is challenging. And I had performed the one song, somebody had asked me to perform it, and I'm like, okay, I Don't Believe in Love is one of the 2 or 3 Queensryche songs that I had been personally familiar with. And so when Tom had asked me, I'll to be honest with you, I was terrified. I'm like, oh my God, can I even do this stuff? And then I heard all the layering, and then I'm like, wow, this is complicated. And after thinking about it for a while, I'm like, but why not? This would make it appealing if we could actually pull it off. And so I think people will be interested in seeing us. Some because they are Queensryche fans, either new fans or established fans, and are really into it and want to see us do it right. But there will be a lot of curiosity seekers, I think, as well, to just go, can somebody actually pull this off? And so that's kind of fun too.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of Queensryche songs at karaoke night, so.
No.
But also a lot of these songs, I think when you play them, people go, oh yeah, that's who sang that. That's that. I said they're kind of an under the radar band a little bit because there's not a lot of cover bands for them. A couple of songs you see aren't really used a lot in modern movies or Guitar Hero or anything like that. So again, kind of reintroducing the sound is really neat. Again, though, you guys are really biting off a lot here, man. Like we talked about this album alone, different layering for the vocals. Holy cow! Good luck on that. You say you have a idea of who's going to help out with that. Do any of the guys help out with that in practice? Who do you guys kind of just take turns? Who does the echoing part in practice, or do you have a?
So. Well, and the only people who have microphones are me and Tom and Dale. And the funny part about that was we had somebody, we needed a minimum 1 person to help out, because the harmonies, just like harmonizing guitars make the Queensryche sound, so too do harmonizing vocals make a very specific Queensryche sound. And we were looking, and we had somebody helping us out, but he had other commitments that wouldn't make him available for this. And my Sugar Buzz bandmate, so I'm in a band called Sugar Buzz, and he's like, well, why don't I do it? And I'm like, well, you're a bassist. Like, what do you know? And,
what do you know about that?
No, I know some keyboards, and I think I can do the high falsettos. I just have to work on it. And so I kind of went, all right, we'll give you a shot. And because you really are looking for kind of a unicorn in that, where you need somebody for some keys, and it's not a lot of key solos, but be able to know the notes and what they're doing, and then to be able to hit high notes above that, especially. And sometimes he and I trade off. But he's been working on it, and he's doing well. So I think people will be surprised. I was surprised. I was surprised. I'm like, Dale, you for sure.
Well, you got a few dozen people to choose from in Duluth when you're up there. If you pull the song off, who to help you out? You got a few different volunteers, I bet.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, you don't want to let them all on stage.
Yeah,
but,
you don't.
Yeah. But a lot of them don't want to do that high falsetto, and that's really what's required in many of this is the super high falsetto harmonizing and be able to pick out and work on the note. So we do practices. Like I know Aaron and Mark, I'm pointing at them as if they're up there. Aaron's up here in my camera.
Bunch thing, you just kind of point over.
I'm just everywhere. I know that Aaron and Mark have guitar practices where they're working on things, and I think Tom's getting inserted into some of those. And then Dale and I have vocal practices where we actually sit and write the lyrics out. We're writing on the keyboard, okay, you're taking this one, I'm taking this one, here's where you come in. So before we have rehearsals together, we do have rehearsals apart because there's a lot of refinement that has to happen. We don't just show up and throw up.
Well, it's like a sports team. The quarterback and wide receiver throw before they put the offensive line in there for a game. So same sort of progress or point there. With it being Queensryche, again, not a lot of notoriety for that out there. When you find other bands to tour with, are they kind of like, oh, never heard of a Queensryche? Are they kind of like, we got to see this, see how it pulls off? I mean, you want to watch the other bands you're with too, but are they kind of like watching as students to see how it's done?
We'll tell you when we have a few more gigs.
Yeah, we're still early in the process. So yeah.
Great
question. We did play at a tribute for John Scott, the late lighting guru at Route 47. We did a short 15-minute set there in, what was it, March or February?
April, end of April, we did another one.
And so there were a number of other bands that were part of that, and we got a lot of great feedback from both the general audience as well as the the members of the other bands that were performing there.
Yeah.
So it seems to be really, really warmly, really positively received, and so all of that's been extremely encouraging.
Now,
I'll go ahead.
it's not a big secret. Everybody's in other bands, of course. When you're with your other band, do you ever go down going, "Hey, my other band, we're working on this," and ask for advice from each other? Or
No.
you keep Sugar Buzz as Sugar Buzz, and you keep Queens as Queens, right?
Yeah.
The genres are just so different for my bands. I don't know, Tom, your bands might be closer.
Yeah, I mean, I play in all 80s kind of, rock band called Legacy of the Loud. And so, they're kind of like, they like their 80s stuff, which, Queensryche sort of is. And, but that would be just too technical for those guys, I think.
And my other band is an Iron Maiden tribute band, Peace of Mind. But we've been on hiatus for most of the last year. So in the time that this band has come around, we haven't really gotten together. But in the past, we have, and just during rehearsals with that band, we have played some of, a couple of Queensryche songs, done Revolution Calling and a little bit of The Mission and so forth. But never anything to this extent.
Now you mentioned your Legacy of the Loud. I've seen them before. Already, Medina, very good venue out there at Medina. We're out here west. Any chance of you guys playing Medina or anything out west here more? You ever?
Hopefully we're going to be able to play at lots of different places. So, once things get going here and rolling, I think this is going to be real good. I think a lot of people are going to talk about this and wanting to come see it. So hopefully we can play all sorts of different places, do a lot of different festivals next year, and I think it's going to be a great thing.
Yeah, I know we saw. This time had one down at Music City down there in St. Paul. He's done a couple down there, Twin City Fest, and he's had different bands down there. That was really cool. See, Trip Fest. I'm sorry. So that's pretty cool. But good luck to you guys coming up. You got Duluth coming up in a couple weeks. Any other dates you want to throw out there or plug out there, or plug your Facebook pages and stuff?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? Am I still there?
Yep,
Yes,
you're still there.
back.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, I'm back. Yeah, we have some other shows we have, and we are partnering with our friends that you just interviewed, Motley Six, at Jersey's October 21st, along with Tom's other band, The Hybrid Theory, which is the Linkin Park tribute band. And then that was October 21st. Then December 2nd, we'll be up at the Max with Motley Six as well. And we're actually working.
Oh, lost her.
Oh, you lost. Oh, yeah. I'd like to throw in a little tidbit. Actually, back during Mindcrime, I actually got to hang out with Queensryche in the hotel for a few hours. The gal I was in high school with in senior, she was the head of the Midwest fan club for Queensryche, and she knew Michael and his wife really well, and they got us to go to the hotel, hang out with them for a few hours.
Oh, awesome!
So, very nice.
They're great band. It was mostly Michael, Eddie, and Scott. Chris was nowhere to be seen, and Jeff Tate was on the couple windows.
That was on the out. I was going to ask if you'd ever met any of the guys from the band before, so that's what was kind of neat.
Yes.
Did you tell them you were? Say you had a chance to meet him again because you didn't have the band at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Would you mention that you're in a tribute band, or would you just kind of be like, "Oh my God, it's Jeff Tate," or
Oh heck, I'd mention it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because we've talked to other guys. They've said we've mentioned we're guys from Def Legend. He said he met Phil Collin, and Phil's like, "Oh, that's cool. Hey, that's great." He was totally happy with it. very
Yeah, it
impressed.
seems like
So,
most artists are
Yeah.
pretty flattered and supportive of
Yeah.
bands that are doing covers and full on tributes. And yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be great to hear what any of the folks from Queensryche have to say.
Well,
I don't know. There you are.
I'm back.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
hopefully, I know some of us will be at where is it in Hinckley when Queensryche is here.
Oh, okay.
September 8th, Queensryche will be here. Of course, different, somewhat of a different lineup, but I know a few of us are going there, so maybe we'll wear our shirts.
Now,
There you go.
I'm showing on the screen here the upcoming shows Beth was talking about before. If you were to go through those again, Beth, they're coming up here starting next week, but go through that list. It's pretty interesting gigs.
Yes, Friday, August 25th is Tribute Fest and a bunch of other bands. We're the 7 p.m. band on the Bent Paddle stage. Saturday, October 21st at Jersey's in Invergrove Heights again with the Hybrid Theory and Motley Six. Hello, you bands. And then Saturday, December 2nd at the Max Bar up in Ham Lake with Motley Six. And as I said before, I was so rudely cut off by technology. We are working on some stuff for next year. We can't say much about it yet, but there is, to Aaron and Tom's point, there was such lovely interest in a band like ours because we are unique. And so we are hoping to partner with other tribute bands. We typically partner with each other, to put on 2 90-minute set shows so we can give something for everyone. But we're working on our catalog, so we're really excited.
That's good. That's great news.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
great news.
Andy, I know you
got that new news. We can reshare it too. So yeah.
You wanted to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it for the both of us. We love the logo. Now, how did that come about? The logo for you guys. So awesome.
Eric Bulow, who is the drummer in Gel, is also a graphic artist. And
boy, that is a sweet looking logo. Love it.
It is sweet. We've got our own t-shirt kind of thing going on, but yeah, he did a bang up job on that, and we have many thanks to him, and say hello to him.
Yep.
We all met at the jams, at the open jams, so we make wonderful connections that way, and I know a lot of people from my other band want to see Can Beth do metal, and that's kind of a weird thing, so we're gonna give that a try.
Anything else, Andy?
No, again, just thanks for being on. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. We're not that bad. We're learning too, so
Yeah, once again, this is Queens of the Ryche, and this is we're having on the show tonight Beth, Tom, and Aaron from the band. There's 3 others not with us here tonight, but a great interview with you guys. Glad to have you on the show. An excellent album, and look forward to seeing you guys on stage.
What is your social media handles if you want to give that out for the band?
Yes.
Yeah. We are Queen of the Ryche on Facebook. On Instagram, it's Queen of the Ryche, but there's underscores between the words. And we also have a YouTube channel, so just look us up there or hit us, any one of us up, because we'll probably be shamelessly promoting night and day on our own personal pages if we're doing it right. So
we'll have the information on in the description section of the show.
Yeah.
Also. Well, good luck next
right.
week. Have a blast up there. Look forward to seeing you guys live, but thanks again for coming on the show with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. That'd be great.
Thank you for being on.
All right. See you guys.